get involved with this project?
You know, initially I was president of global gaming for MGM, based out of Hong Kong. I had a 20-year history with MGM. And we were looking to expand our footprint in Asia. At that time, we were building the casino in Macau. It's 2007 that it actually opened. And in looking at the Vietnamese market, there were a number of people who claimed that they had a license. And eventually, it led us to a company called Asian Coast Development. And we signed a management and branding agreement to brand the first of 5 resorts for Asian Coast. And then really I went on my way. We had plenty of other development projects that we were looking at. About a year and a half, no, 2 years. 2 years later, the company approached me and asked me whether I'd be interested in being the CEO. They had approached a number of parties. I threw my hat in the ring, and here we are today.
Of course, you were taking over from your predecessors on this project who had suffered some delays getting it off the ground.
Yeah, I mean, they had achieved a great deal. They had got a license in Vietnam, a monopolistic license for gaming. And it was that point that MGM entered the project. It was then 2009 when they were trying to raise the money for the project. Not a good time for anyone to be raising money, particularly for a greenfield project in Vietnam. And I came in April 2010.
And since then, the project has been proceeding quite quickly and is expected to open quite soon. When's the schedule now?
Yeah, we're delighted with the progress. I mean, in April 2010, we had an empty piece of beach. And you're on site with us today, and we're 10 months away from opening. We expect to open the first phase of the project in Q1 of next year.
And what will that include?
First phase will be the MGM Grand Ho Tram, the first of 5 resorts to be managed and branded by MGM. And that will consist of a hotel tower of 541 rooms, 13,600 square meters of gaming space. And that gaming consists of 90 tables and 500 electronic gaming machines. It will consist of conference facilities, around 4,000 square meters, food and beverage, some world-class restaurants, French, Vietnamese, Chinese and Japanese cuisine, a spa, swimming pool, beach facility, cigar bar, teens area, and really everything that you would expect to see at a destination resort. That will open in Q1 of 2013. And then following that, we'll build a second tower of 559 rooms, which will bring the total room complement to 1,100.
So how much will that phase 1 cost?
Phase 1, which will consist of the high-rise tower, 541 rooms, and the amenities that I described, including the gaming area, has a total cost of approximately $450 million US.
Now, one of the major perceived obstacles to the success of the project is actually getting visitors there. People are concerned that it's too far from Ho Chi Minh. What would you say to them?
You know, in terms of physical distance, you're talking about 127 kilometers from a major metropolis of around 10 to 12 million people. In addition, you have 6 million visitors from overseas coming to Vietnam. When we first looked at this project, when I was still with MGM, there were around 4 million visitors coming, and that's gone up to 6 million. There'll be multiple modalities of travel down to the site. Some of the customers will come by helicopter directly from the airport in Ho Chi Minh to our site. We have a landing pad on site, part of our investment certificate. Others will come by road. It's always very interesting with the road because people have this perception that it takes 3-4 hours, which incidentally it did a number of years ago. You and I traveled the road together this morning, and you'll have seen that there are construction vehicles on the entire road, and the Highway 51, which connects Ho Chi Minh City to Bà Vũng Tàu, has gone from 2 lanes to 4 lanes, and in some places 6 lanes. So the road improvement has been dramatic, which we're delighted by, and those road improvements are in place before we open in the first quarter of next year. The other modalities that will be used will be ferries, People can come from the ferry terminal, which is in District 1 of Ho Chi Minh City, and take a ferry directly to Vung Tau. Ultimately, we expect them to be able to take a ferry directly to the site. And of course, the Long Tang Airport will come online in a number of years, and that will be about 45 minutes from our site.
And of course, the site offers a completely different value proposition to the other gaming hubs in Asia that are closer to the airports. I mean, it's something quite unlike and quite unique.
That's an important point. I mean, I think when you look at the size of the market in Asia, ultimately Vietnam presents a compelling alternative to Macau or to Singapore. But one of the key differentiating factors of our project is the site itself. It's one of stunning beauty, 2.2 kilometers of beach. So whereas there's many resorts that are looking to create artificial beaches and artificial wave pools, we actually have the real thing on our doorstep. And it's a true family destination, the type of place that people will feel comfortable to bring their family, and the type of place that will appeal to gamers and non-gamers alike.
Do you expect non-gaming to be a significant contributor going forward?
It will be a contributor. In terms of significance, it is likely that the gaming would be a higher percentage than the non-gaming. But again, taking a perspective, there are 8 million Vietnamese people who currently visit Bà Vung Tau province as tourists. And many people go down to Vung Tau as a weekend destination break. We're very hopeful that a lot of those people would be delighted to come and visit us and enjoy a lot of the non-gaming amenities that we'll have to offer.
Now, what are the restrictions on your license in terms of gaming capacity? What's the limit of tables and slots that you're currently allocated?
The entire development is 5 resorts and a championship golf course, which we're having designed by Greg Norman, and some ancillary real estate development related to that, over 405 acres or 164 hectares. Of those 5 resorts, we have an allocation of 180 live tables and 2,000 electronic gaming machines. Now, we have that configured that the first 2 resorts, the first to be run by MGM and the second by Pinnacle, will have 90 live tables each and 1,000 electronic gaming machines each.
Now, you mentioned Pinnacle, who's a partner now in the project. They took a 26% stake last year in the project. What have they brought to the table so far?
Well, we were delighted after that transaction closed when Anthony Sanfilippo, who is the president and CEO of Pinnacle, and Carlos Ruiz Sanchez, who is the CFO of Pinnacle, joined our board. And their presence on the board has contributed meaningfully to this company's continued success. And it's more than just the board level. In fact, at the end of last year, a very talented individual was seconded to us from Pinnacle to Asian Coast and has been very, very helpful on operational matters and logistics as we get closer towards our opening. And then ultimately, we'll work very closely with Pinnacle on the second resort. We'll work together from concept to opening, and then Pinnacle will manage the resort moving forward.
But of course, the first phase will be managed by MGM Resorts International. And I guess you've also been similarly involved with them in the conceptualization of the first phase and the development of the first phase.
MGM have been present in Asia for over 30 years, and they have a deep, deep experience of the needs of Asian customers. In addition to that, they of course opened the MGM Grand Macau in 2007, and we have actually become the beneficiary of all the knowledge that they've gained through those operations. And so we're very comfortable with MGM, and there's been great teamwork with them. And it hasn't actually just been a good partner for us. MGM's been a good partner for Vietnam. They've reached out to a number of colleges and universities in Vietnam and offered curriculum and training for young Vietnamese students to come and get a foothold in our industry. And in addition to that, career development, and I know this from my own experience at MGM, is something very important to MGM. In my 20-year history there, I saw people go from the front desk to become presidents of properties. And there'll be tremendous career development opportunities for Vietnamese people, particularly as we're about to hire 2,000 such people for the property.
And what do you expect will be the major source markets for visitors to Ho Tram?
For us, we're looking at a pan-Asian attraction. And if you look at certain other jurisdictions, whether it be Macau or Singapore, tends to be a more focused demographic or geography that are actually going to those properties. And we're looking for a far broader appeal, both for the non-gaming and the gaming. On the gaming side, we would expect premium players to come from places such as mainland China, Korea, Japan, and Thailand, and including India as well. And we would also, I mentioned before, the 6 million foreign tourists that come to Vietnam on an annual basis. In addition to that, there are 3.5 million Vietnamese people who live overseas with foreign passports, who tend to come in very large numbers around the Lunar New Year. And there's a very large amount of expatriates living in Vietnam who right now are frequenting a limited number of slot parlors attached to 4- or 5-star hotels with a very high propensity to game, and we would see that we would capture a large amount of that market.
In terms of allocation of tables, have you gone very much towards the Asian preference for baccarat?
Very much so, and that's again sitting down with MGM, their experience in Macau, their experience in talking to their current international marketing agents, with skewing it without a doubt towards that audience.
There's been lots of talk of competing gaming projects in Vietnam. There's been some talk of a project involving Michael Jackson's father, Joe Jackson. There have been some purported multi-billion-dollar projects proposed, even one nearby Ho Tram. What's happening with all those?
You know, it's very difficult to open a newspaper and not see some other project being announced. All of those projects tend to be aspirational. They don't have a gaming license, they don't have funding, and they don't have land or cleared land. We tend to be focused on what we're doing, and as we sit here today, we are 10 months away from opening. We're fitting out our interior of our building, and we're highly focused on marketing the property, and we are the only large-scale casino resort under development in Vietnam.
And actually, over the next few years, you'll be one of the few major openings in the region, apart from the Philippines.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing, because the Philippines is obviously a tremendous market, and it's attracted a lot of very able players. The issue there for major US brands is the way the Philippines is structured with PAGCOR operating and regulating. It's a barrier to entry for a major US brand. When you look at the Asian landscape over the next 5 years, it's our belief that we are the only opening for a major US brand. And again, underline the word opening. There's plenty of markets out there that are looking to develop their markets and enable casinos to open. But as far as one actually opening with a major US brand, over the next 5 years, we believe we're the only one.
And so you don't believe Japan's going to happen imminently? You don't believe Taiwan or Korea will open up more to the locals market? I mean, these are all some of the expected or hoped for new openings in Asia over the next few years.
There's some great developments happening. As you know, Taiwan has passed enabling legislation allowing some of the offshore islands to have a referendum on whether or not they'd like casino gaming, and it failed in Penghu, and maybe it will succeed a second time around. But when you look at the actual timeline of what it takes to get from the enabling legislation to a casino opening, I don't think that Taiwan or South Korea or Japan will see an opening in the next 5 years, but that's not in any way to diminish the very positive happenings that are occurring in those markets.
Now for ACDL, Vietnam is a first entry into gaming and into resorts in Asia. Do you see it acting as a calling card in the future for you?
We would hope so. We're very focused right now on the opening of the MGM, and we've got plenty to keep us busy over the next several years. We have 5 resorts to build, a golf course to develop, and other real estate developments that we have ancillary to that. But without a doubt, we're keeping an eye on the rest of Asia, and we do believe it will be a very strong calling card as we look at other places.